peace and comfort of my reign.
Hello, and welcome to Lorekeeper Sanctum. I'm your Lorekeeper, and for today, we will be back in Thedas for our Dragon Age series, beginning our exploration into the Evanuris. The topic for today is Elgar'nan, the Allfather, the eldest of the Sun, he who overthrew his father, god of vengeance, and god of the sun. To the Dalish, he represents fatherhood, and is the head of the Evanuris, the pantheon of ancient elven gods. Elgar'nan is credited with shaping the world of Thedas. He molded the land and seas, creating a world fit for his children, the elves. As the Allfather, Elgar'nan is considered the patriarch of the Evanuris. His authority and power were unmatched among the gods. His story is one of power and wrath, etched into the very fabric of ancient history, with influence touching every culture in Thedas. Elgar'nan's presence is felt throughout the Dragon Age games, where his influence and stories are revealed through various codex entries and Dalish lore. The myths surrounding Elgar'nan are filled with tales of creation, destruction, and vengeance. With the upcoming release of the fourth game in the series, the Veilguard, we are certain to get a much more intimate understanding of Elgar'nan and the Evanuris, as he is likely to be the primary antagonist. Let's take a look at some of these myths and legends that have been revealed so far, mostly through codex entries, and discuss them as we go. Long ago, when time itself was young, the only things in existence were the sun and the land. The sun, curious about the land, bowed his head close to her body, and Elgar'nan was born in the place where they touched. The sun and the land loved Elgar'nan greatly, for he was beautiful and clever. As a gift to Elgar'nan, the land brought forth great birds and beasts of sky and forest, and all manner of wonderful green things. Elgar'nan loved his mother's gifts and praised them highly and walked amongst them often. The sun, looking down upon the fruitful land, saw the joy that Elgar'nan took in her works and grew jealous. Out of spite, he shone his face full upon all the creatures the earth had created and burned them all to ashes. The land cracked and split from bitterness and pain, and cried salt tears for the loss of all she had wrought. The pool of tears cried for the land became the ocean, and the cracks in her body the first rivers and streams. Elgar'nan was furious at what his father had done and vowed vengeance. He lifted himself into the sky and wrestled the sun, determined to defeat him. They fought for an eternity, and eventually the sun grew weak while Elgar'nan's rage was unabated. Eventually, Elgar'nan threw the sun down from the sky and buried him in a deep abyss created by the land's sorrow. With the sun gone, the world was covered in shadow, and all that remained in the sky were the reminders of Elgar'nan's battle with his father, drops of the sun's lifeblood which twinkled and shimmered in the darkness. From the tale of Elgar'nan and the sun, as told by Gisharel, keeper of the Rallifaran clan of the Dalish Elves. What should we take from this entry? Does this tale depict Elgar'nan overthrowing the Maker, or is it an allegory for his rise to power in the ancient and forgotten war against the dwarves and titans? To me, it sounds like we are talking about a titan and lyrium, with the titans shaping the earth and the Evanuris being the creators. It seems like the elves and dwarves could share some sort of common ancestry, at least indirectly. Drops of the sun's lifeblood, which twinkled and shimmered in the darkness, sounds a lot like lyrium, which from the Descent DLC from Dragon Age Inquisition, we know to be Titan's blood. Elgar'nan had defeated his father, the sun, and all was covered in darkness. Pleased with himself, Elgar'nan sought to console his mother, the earth, by replacing all that the sun had destroyed. But the earth knew that without the sun, nothing can grow. She whispered to Elgar'nan this truth and pleaded with him to release his father. But Elgar'nan's pride was great, and his vengeance was terrible, and he refused. It was at this moment that Mythal walked out of the sea of the earth's tears and onto the land. She placed her hand on Elgar'nan's brow, and at her touch he grew calm and knew that his anger had led him astray. Humbled, Elgar'nan went to the place where the sun was buried and spoke to him. Elgar'nan said he would release the sun if the sun promised to be gentle and to return to the earth each night. The sun, feeling remorse at what he had done, agreed. And so the sun rose again in the sky and shone his golden light upon the earth. Elgar'nan and Mythal, with the help of the earth and the sun, brought back to life all the wondrous things that the sun had destroyed, and they grew and thrived. And that night, when the sun had gone to sleep, Mythal gathered the glowing earth around his bed and formed it into a sphere to be placed in the sky, a pale reflection of the sun's true glory. From the tale of Mythal's touch, as told by Gisharel, keeper of the Reliferan clan of the Dalish Elves. Here, we see that Elgar'nan's pride is very strong, and he needs to be tempered by Mythal's gentle touch. The powers surrounding the sun and earth seem to be very strong, like the magic of the Fade, without the veil, and Lyrium, the blood of Titans. Pools of the sun. According to our legends, what remains of the sun's heat, left in the earth when Elgar'nan threw the sun from the sky and buried it in the abyss, heats the hot springs in the dales. The waters of the spring have healing qualities. We have always treated them as sacred. Then, of course, Orlesians moved in, scarring them with their garish statuary. But fate is just. Last I heard, dragons had claimed the territory. Let's hope the beasts made a meal of fat nobles who couldn't escape in time. Penned by an unknown Dalish elf. This leads one to believe that whatever it was that Elgar'nan buried in the abyss was of a magical nature. Are all of these legends actually the same legend? That the spirits, elves, dwarves, and titans are all linked to one another? What exactly was it that Elgar'nan buried in the abyss? It's obviously not the actual sun, but some sort of magical power source. Could it have been a titan? Or is the sun a reference to Arlathan before it was locked away? I don't think so, but anything is possible. If he was once a spirit and overthrew his father, was his father the maker of Andrastian legends? Let's continue. From a codex entry found in the Deep Roads during the Trespasser DLC. Many of these pages are filled with sketches of elven statues, matching the ones found in the area, along with notes and what look like attempts to practice Kunlock. They say the agents of Fen-Harel caused trouble in the crossroads. I wish I knew. I wish whoever fights in the name of the Old Wolf was around to fight when the Darkspawn took my clan. Mine is not to question. I have chosen the Kyun. The Kyun will protect me. Rathost, you all protect. Rathadim, they all protect. Rathsam, we all protect. These statues are older than anything I saw in my days with the clan. The area is dwarven. What were the ancient elves doing down here? Mining? Where were the dwarves? Easier to have them mine it. Not a trading post. You don't go into a friend's home, knock over their gods, and put up your own. War? I don't remember any legends about our people fighting the dwarves, though I remember my keeper telling a story about how the dwarves fear the sun because of Elgar'nan's fire. A metaphor for the elves of Arlathan driving the dwarves underground? The Qunari like metaphors. I should share that. Here, we have an account of Elgar'nan's fire driving the dwarves underground. Is this a reference to his magical powers? Or of him using a dragon, or his own dragon form, in the war between the elves and the dwarves where the Evanuris gained their power? From this codex entry, found in the Deep Roads, we learn that the Dalish have a tale associating the dwarven fear of the sun to Elgar'nan. He is likely the primary reason for the dwarves' fear of the sun and sky. This fear could have been increased by other Evanuris as well, but it seems, from the available lore, that Elgar'nan is the primary source of that fear. Or was there a titan, forgotten to history, that is being referred to as the sun? Perhaps one with yellow lyrium that glowed like the sun? Elgar'nan was one of the Evanuris, elven mages who enslaved their kin and branded them with their Valisleen. I suspect that the Valisleen were originally probably much like the tattoos that we see on Fenris in Dragon Age 2, with lyrium branded into the skin, allowing the mage to have control over their slave, while granting the slave additional powers the mage might find useful. As Elgar'nan is clearly depicted as a powerful mage, he likely wielded fire, light, or lightning that would burn his enemies to ashes. The constellation Solium, or the sun, likely represented him before it was rebranded by later propaganda and belief systems after the fall of the elves. The largest temple of old Halam Sharal in the Dales was dedicated to Elgar'nan, and in the Emerald Graves there is a location called Elgar'nan's Bastion. Whenever one of the people wronged another, it would not call on Elgar'nan to avenge them, for his fury would destroy all it touched. Mythal saw this bring strife among the people and went to Elgar'nan. She offered to deliver justice when the people warred amongst themselves. Elgar'nan saw her wisdom and agreed, binding all to abide by her verdicts. Some petitioning Mythal for justice hid jealousy, accusing those who had done them no wrong. She saw their lies and struck them down. Others petitioning Mythal for justice burned with wrath for imagined slights. She saw their weak hearts and struck them down. Those coming to her with clear minds and open hearts were granted judgment and protection, and Mythal harried their enemies until the end of their days. Story of the Elven god Mythal. Author unknown. Elgar'nan's wrath was so intense that he had to leave justice in the hands of Mythal. We also see that Mythal could be quite brutal in her judgment if she believed there was no merit in the accusations. If Mythal would strike down those who she believed to be in the wrong, how much worse was Elgar'nan's wrath? We now have a few entries reinforcing the idea that Elgar'nan has a violent temper, so much so that the others fear him, possibly the fury of a dragon. The following entries are found in the Shattered Library during the Trespasser DLC. The pages of this book, Memory, show a narrow plateau on top of a mountain. Two armed figures, one in gold, one in black, are fighting in the snow. Steel flickers so fast the air hums. Blood dots the ground. They do not stop for breath. The one in black makes no sound as a blade parts his throat. Mythal, in her wisdom, interceded in an argument between Elgar'nan and Falandine. With clever words, she convinced them to settle their grievance through a battle of their champions. Elgar'nan and Falandine agreed, and set their champions against each other, rather than declare war among the gods. May those nights long be remembered, and Mythal's wisdom be praised. In later legends, Elgar'nan was the eldest of the sun, and the wielder of burning light. Falandine was the god of death, he who had no fear of night. Therefore, the knight in gold was likely Elgar'nan's champion, while the knight in black fought for Falandine. This codex entry gives us an account of Falandine challenging Elgar'nan's rulership of the Pantheon and losing. I suspect that Falandine, having no fear of night, is likely a reference to Elgar'nan's connection to, or dragon form, in Lusakan, the old god of night. The pages of this book, Memory, describe a monument being made in a single afternoon by 1,000 toiling servants swarming over a lump of fallen stone as large as a collapsed mountain. By the end of the day, the stern figure of Elgar'nan stares down into a valley, carved out from the foothills of the rock. The slaves have disappeared. Light radiates from the Eidolon's narrowed eyes and its open, snarling mouth. Hail Elgar'nan, first among the gods. Mark his victory eternal. As we can assume that this shouldn't be literally taken to say that this was an asteroid the size of a mountain, this seems to be referring to a fallen titan, as we know they are often depicted in such a way. It sounds like Elgar'nan had a giant statue carved of himself from the remains of a dead titan. Elgar'nan, wrath and thunder, give us glory. Give us victory over the earth that shakes our cities. Strike the usurpers with your lightning. Burn the ground under your gaze. Bring winged death against those who throw down our work. Elgar'nan, help us tame the land. Song to Elgar'nan, found in the Temple of Mythal. Author unknown. This sounds like an ancient conflict between the elves and the dwarves. The earth shaking sounds like Titan activity, and winged death likely suggests Elgar'nan having a dragon or dragon form. I believe that it could possibly be the old god Lusakan, giving us the relation to both sun and darkness as mentioned in the myths and legends surrounding Elgar'nan. This elven writing found in the Arbor Wilds is so old that there seems to be no way to learn what it means. There are whispers from the Well of Sorrows. It's impossible to understand the entire text, but certain parts suddenly reveal a shadow of their original meaning. His crime is high treason. He took on a form reserved for the gods and their chosen, and dared to fly in the shape of the divine. The sinner belongs to Dirthaman. He claims he took wings at the urging of Gillenane and begs protection from Mythal. She does not show him favor and will let Elgar'nan judge him. For one moment there is an image of a shifting, shadowy mass with blazing eyes, whose form may be one or many. Then it fades. Again, I think that the shape reserved for the gods is the form of a dragon. He took wings further implies that this is the case. This could be either the ability to shapeshift into a dragon form, such as we see from Flemeth and Worgen, or having a dragon bound to them like we see with Corypheus. This entry leads me to believe that it was someone taking the form of a dragon. It is said that he was the first of the Evanuris, and the creator of the world. In the ancient elven empire of Elvenon, Elgar'nan was a powerful mage, one of the Evanuris who ruled with an iron fist. His wrath was feared, and he was often invoked for retribution. However, his fury was so destructive that even the ancient elves hesitated to call upon him for justice. Now this is where things are a little less clear. How was he the first? Some theories suggest that elves were once spirits that took on physical forms. There is some evidence to back this up from Kieran, as he suggests that the elves chose to look as they do. Because of the immortality of the ancient elves, this theory cannot be completely confirmed or debunked at this time. However, I think it's more likely that he was the first to learn the trick to effective immortality by binding his soul or spirit to that of a great dragon. And as I suspect, that dragon was probably Lucicaun. As Elgar'nan is affiliated with the sun, but also known for casting the sun into the abyss, it seems that he has a duality of both light and darkness. Elgar'nan likely had a role similar to that of an emperor or high king, ruling as the leader of the Evanuris. That reign ended when Fen'Harel, the Dreadwolf, also known to us as Solus, created the Veiled, imprisoning the Evanuris in the Fade and the Forgotten Ones in the Abyss. The divinity of Elgar'nan and the Evanuris was likely as a result of effective immortality, binding one's spirit to a great dragon, such as seen with Corypheus in the Red Lyrium dragon. This gave the Evanuris the semblance of divinity, and Elgar'nan was likely the first to achieve this feat of magical power. This is why Flemeth, or Mythal, and her chosen, such as Morrigan, after drinking from the Well of Sorrows, and who is destined to become the next carrier of Mythal's spirit, can shapeshift into a dragon form. It is my belief that the Evanuris and the old gods are one and the same, that they share spirits, as seen with Kieran, the potential son of Morrigan and one of the wardens from Origins. In Inquisition, we see that the spirit of Erthemiel was released and given to Flemeth. I suspect that Solus took the spirit of Erthemiel when we saw him approach and seemingly kill Flemeth at the end of Inquisition, with Flemeth likely storing the spirit of Mythal somewhere for Morrigan to find later. Solus had always spoken highly of Mythal, and it's unlikely he would harm her spirit. At the end of the gameplay trailer for Dragon Age The Veilguard, we see Elgar'nan being released from his prison in the Fade, alongside Gillenane, after Rook, Beric, and party disrupted the ritual Solus was performing to move them from their weakened prison in the Fade to a stronger prison. Additionally, in the release date trailer, Solus confirms that disrupting the ritual released the blighted elven gods. In summary, Elgar'nan was a powerful mage of ancient Elvenon. I suspect that Elgar'nan and Lucicaun are directly linked, either being two parts of the same being, or something like Corypheus and the Red Lyrium dragon in Inquisition. The Evanuris, who represents sun, but also buried the sun in the abyss, sounds like he would also have an aspect that might represent night or darkness. It's apparent that he participated in a war against the dwarves and titans, and likely played a role in the dwarves' fear of the sun and sky. We know that the Evanuris hunted titans, as we have accounts of Mythal, Andruil, and Elgar'nan involving titans. I have some more theories on the titans, but I'll save them for their own video. Before we wrap up here, I will propose an alternate theory. Are the old gods acting as seals on the prisons of the Evanuris, such as what we see with the Forsaken in the Wheel of Time? Did Elgar'nan have a part in creating the Veil? The story of him putting the sun in the abyss, while it could be a reference to the Titans, it could also be a reference to the Golden City, Sun or Arlathan, and locking it away, before it became corrupted and became the Black City. We have seen ancient elven defenses scorching things in the Exalted Plains. Could Arlathan, the Golden City, have been like this, but to a much larger degree? That's all I have to discuss on Elgar'nan, God of Vengeance, today. I will probably update this video again after playing the Veilguard, as there will doubtless be much more information provided, and we will see how my theories hold up. Thank you for stopping by Lorekeeper Sanctum. I'm your Lorekeeper. I hope you will come back soon, and I hope that you learn something new. If you like this content and would like to encourage me to make more in the future, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out a lot. Until next time, friends and fans of fantasy.